how do we follow our path without hurting our loved ones? It's not always very easy. I mean, it obviously depends on where your path is going to take you. It depends on the agenda your loved ones had. Depends on how attached your loved ones were to the agenda. So there's no cookie cutter answer to this. I know on a personal level, yeah, my parents had an agenda when I was 25. I mean, in their mind, okay, so she's going to finish her PhD, and then eventually she's going to have kids, and then we're going to have, grandkids running around, and she'll live somewhere nearby, and we'll, they had an agenda because that's just the vision that people have. Fortunately for me, they were able to do this readjustment of the sails. They were able to realize, oh wait, okay. So we had this agenda, this is what we thought was going to happen, and it's what we thought was going to make our daughter happy. It wasn't that we had an agenda that, she would be miserable, but we'd be happy because she'd pop out grandkids and, but they really thought, well, this is what would make me happy, because that's what people do in life. They are married, they have kids, and they, it's what people do. So when they realized that that wasn't what was happening, as I continued to gently but firmly help them understand, they were able to readjust it and understand, okay, wait, ultimately our highest goal was she should be happy. That was why we thought she was going to do this whole thing, because that's what usually makes people happy. But our highest agenda was she would be happy. Okay, so it's not the box we thought happiness was going to come in, but nonetheless, she's undeniably happy. And she's actually undeniably happier than most of the children of our friends, meaning my parents' friends. And so they were able, by God's grace, to do that readjustment, to say, okay, so how can we, rather than stay stuck with our agenda that isn't what's going to happen, how can we support this and be part of it? It really depends on your situation. The few general rules of thumb are, number one, there's no path of deep spirituality that would consciously cause real deep suffering to your loved ones. Now, yes, there's emotional attachments, whether it's a marriage, whether it's parents who had this vision that you were going to live under their roof or next door in their city forever, and it turns out you don't. So there's, a little bit of that. There's actually a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bunch of letters between Pujya Swamiji and his mother when he was very, very young and had left the home. And you see what a mother goes through. So it's not that families are always going to say, oh, this is so great, fantastic, we're so happy that you're, leaving here. But usually they're able to readjust, because usually your happiness, if they're parents or if they're grown children, is really their highest goal for you. If it's spouse, if it's siblings, there's so many different loved ones. But you've got to ask yourself, where is the balance between what I know I need to do for me? Because remember, you're also one of your loved ones. Seva for the world is not excluding you. Compassion does not exclude you. Seeing the divine in all does not exclude you. And we tend to forget that. Oh my God, my loved ones. Well, though I'm also one of my loved ones. And if I'm not, I should be. So you have to be sure to take care of that loved one also. But you've got to figure out the balance between physical well-being. For example, if you were an only child or the only earning child and your parents were not very financially strong and they were not able to work anymore because they were very old and they were going to need a lot of, medical care. I don't know anyone who would say to you, I know what you should do. Don't worry, leave them behind. They'll figure it out. You just go off and do what your path is. Well, obviously, you have to first make sure they're safe, they're taken care of. That has to be. But remember, that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever their agenda is, you're going to fulfill it. It also doesn't mean that their mental well-being is something that you're going to give up your path to do. So for example, it took my mom a long time to get over the fact that I was not settling down nearby, that I was not having kids. A couple months before I took official vows of sannyas, after which point she knew, well, it's going to be impossible. So she calls me and she says, so I had a dream last night. I said, yeah. She said, so my dream was that you married one of these guys from the Hare Krishna temple in LA. This is a true story. That you married one of these guys from the Hare Krishna temple in LA, and you had these little Hare Krishna babies. She said, so I want you to know, it's not the religion thing. She was really attached that I was gonna have kids. And I actually said to her, I'll tell you a personal story. The year before I took sannyas, I knew how attached she was, and I'm an only child as well. But I knew this was the path I was meant to live in my life. There was no question about that for me. Because I have full faith in God, and what I knew was God would not have brought me from that life to this life, would not have given me the experience I was given if I was not meant to live it. It was absolutely obvious to me, beyond any doubt, that this was what I was supposed to do. But about a year before I took official vows of sannyas, I obviously had been living as a sannyasi since I got here, but I didn't officially take the vows for about 4 years. I came in 96 and was initiated in 2000. So about a year before, I said to my mom very seriously, I said, look, I know how much you want a child. I'm about to take these vows, official vows of renunciation. I cannot go back. I said, if you want, I would actually do something for you. I would go out, I would get myself pregnant. I really told her this. I would get myself pregnant, I would carry that child for you, and I would give it to you. I said, but I will not raise it. I will not leave India and move next door to you in LA and raise that child because that was the vision that you had of what your life was going to be and what my life was going to be. So you think about it. If what you want is a grandchild, I will give that to you. You've given me so much, I can give you 9 months of my life. I'll carry this child. But I can't give you the rest of my life. I cannot not live what I'm supposed to live and instead move back there and raise this child. So you think about that. And she did. And she came back and she said, no, that's really not what I want. I want you to be happy. Don't worry. And I'll tell you something, also personal. As the divine universe works, my mom is from New York. When she moved to California with my dad, the entire rest of the family still lived in New York, except one of her brothers who lived with his kids in Chicago. There was nobody in our family west of Chicago. Within a couple of years of me moving to India, my cousin moves to LA, to about half a mile from where my parents live, proceeds to give birth to 2 children. Her mom lived in Chicago. Her husband does music for TV shows and things and is always traveling. So my mom got to be grandma. And then her younger brother moved to LA. And then his son moved to LA. And then his son got married. And then they had a kid. And so it's like the universe. When I moved to India, there was no family in LA. Now, pretty much the whole family's in LA. And lots of kids. So the universe actually supports you in the most incredible ways. But for everybody, there's got to be your own personal sort of balance of what is it you are prepared to do. It's not giving up yourself. That's not giving up a path you know you are supposed to walk, but that is still loving and respectful of people who brought you into this world. And how to balance that. You know, I mean, I'm a sannyasi. Theoretically, they, cut off all contact with their family. I didn't. My mom had a stroke a few months ago. I was just back in LA with her, taking care of things. You balance individually. There's no right answer. There's no one equation. But what I have found is that when you anchor yourself in a spiritual path, in a path that includes your parents, your family, your global family, like we were talking about in Aarti tonight, the whole family, and that also includes yourself, with the awareness that that's actually what you were put on earth to do. That's why you were born. And that has to be honored as well. And if you keep yourself anchored in that spiritual connection, it's going to guide you. Because a spiritual path is not a path that pushes us away from things. It's a path that pulls us toward something. And so as you're being pulled toward something, well, yeah, of course, you make sure that everything is still taken care of back here. Because that's part of being human. And so you'll figure it out. But the most important piece, I guess, that I can offer you to think about in every minute is, if they really love you, and if really what they want is your highest happiness. I'm not talking about decadence and hedonism. I'm not talking about you saying, well, mom, dad, that which would make me the most happy would be to empty the family's bank account and go and move to, the Bahamas. Come on, if you really want my happiness, just let me do that. I'm never going to work a day. I'm just going to, live in the Bahamas. And that's not what we're talking about here. This is an entirely different type of happiness. It's not, shooting heroin makes me happy. Why are you making me stop? It makes me happy. I really enjoy it. Getting drunk makes me happy. Why are you stopping me? It's not that type of happiness. The happiness on a spiritual path is the happiness of the self unfolding as itself. And if people really love you and really want the best for you, they're going to understand that this is what you're called to do, and they're going to feel blessed. There's a teaching in the Indian spirituality that if even one member of the family goes on the spiritual path, that the whole family for generations is blessed. Yeah, it might be slightly inconvenient. 2 fewer hands around the house. But you're bringing blessings on the family for generations to come. And hopefully, they will have the ability to see that. And just being on a spiritual path doesn't mean you don't help them for what's needed. Because they are part of this world that you're in service of if you're on a spiritual path. It's not the world minus your parents. They're part of that. And so are you. And in that balance, you'll find it. And if you're really honest and deep and choose your words to be as kind and beneficial as Lord Krishna reminds us in the Gita, they shouldn't be hurt. And if they are hurt, what's hurt is their own agendas and their own egos. And so what you've done is you've given them a chance to grow. You've given them a chance to examine themselves. Which may sting for a moment, but actually is beneficial for them as well in the long run. My parents have become so much more spiritual. Since this. Not because of me, but through me. Through this, the Spirit touching them.